judging it on its commercial aspects alone is not going to be sufficient, and that by its own statements, the government will want to take a view about the national security implications of a company which is primarily based in Hong Kong, having a substantial ownership share in our national infrastructure.
Now, if you're writing a list of companies and brand names with a sort of a feel-good factor, well, Thames Water might not be the first to spring to mind. The least because the bad vibes is their potential sale to a Chinese-controlled company, the infrastructure firm CKI. Now, it could pose a risk to national security, according to a former chair of the government's Joint Intelligence Committee. That's Sir Simon Gass, who writes about this in today's paper, and he joins us now. Sir Simon, thank you for your time. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Alex. It's good to be with you.
Why do you believe that the sale of Thames Water to a Hong Kong-owned company would carry such serious risk to national security?
Well, the point that I'm making, Alexis, is not particularly about this company, which is already heavily invested in infrastructure projects in the UK and other places. What I'm really doing is drawing attention to the government's own concern about the water sector. In 2021, the government passed a National Security and Investment Act, which required notification to the government where acquisitions of companies in the UK in sensitive areas had to be notified so that they could be assessed for their security implications. The government has now gone out for consultation and has proposed adding the water industry to that list of sensitive sectors, and its own language draws attention to the potential risks that investment can make in something which is really one of the most critical parts of our national infrastructure. So the point that I'm making is not that this deal is necessarily a bad one. I'm simply making the point that judging it on its commercial aspects alone is not going to be sufficient, and that by its own statements, the government will want to take a view about the national security implications of a company which is primarily based in Hong Kong, having a substantial ownership share in our national infrastructure.
What specifically, though, worries you, other than that it's a national infrastructure, and you're quite right to point that out, water important as are other utilities, but are you concerned about sensitive data that the water company holds about its customers? Is that creating a worry for you?
Well, absolutely. And that's one of the points which the government itself makes in its consultation document on the National Security and Investment Act, that data can be one of the issues when you get foreign ownership of a major British company. So Thames Water obviously is vital in two respects. Firstly, that it provides an absolutely essential resource for the millions of people who live in and around the Thames water area, which of course includes many of the decision-making points within government. And secondly, Thames Water will inevitably hold masses of data, both about the water system, but also about the very many clients which it has, many of whom may be working in government or in other sensitive areas. So there may very well be ways of safeguarding these points, but the government will, I think, need to look at this from a national security viewpoint and satisfy itself, if this bid materialises, that allowing a Hong Kong-based company such a substantial share in the water industry in the Thames area is warranted.
But Sir Simon, when it comes to sensitive data about UK customers, has that horse bolted already? When we look at social media companies already owned by Chinese companies, TikTok, for example, I mean, I've seen the amount of information that users of TikTok agree to share with the parent company. And I mean, they're jaw-dropping. It's essentially you're sharing so much of your personal data, your personal information, just to be on social media. Isn't that a bit more worrying than a Chinese company getting hold of Thames Water?
Well, data is a hugely valuable commodity, as you rightly point out, Alexis, and there are many ways in which people allow their data to go online. In the case of a company like Thames Water, that will include billing information, addresses, payment details, a whole range of issues, which on the whole you would not want to present to a foreign government. Now, that might not happen, of course, if CKI did take over Thames Water, but you do want the safeguards to be in place. If we simply take the view that no data is worth protecting because there is a lot of it out there already, then I think we will be doing ourselves a significant disservice.
Sure, and that wasn't the point I was trying to make, because I do personally believe that data is possibly one of the most highly valued commodities on the planet at the moment, and people are tending to giving it away for free without thinking about it. But what is your view on social media companies, for example, that are harvesting people's data at an alarming rate? Should we be more concerned about perhaps social media companies like TikTok and Meta and Google, who are using our data and God knows what they're doing with it?
Well, I think we should be careful about all of our data. I mean, I agree with you. I think that the sharing of data happens too freely these days and without sufficient thought. We're all users of the internet. It's quite difficult to proceed without sharing data about yourself, but being very careful about what it is and possibly trying to exert more controls on the companies that own that data and may sell it on. That is also of importance. I agree.
So would you say that it might bear thinking that vital infrastructure such as water, telecoms, we of course were talking, I think it was about 5 years ago, about Huawei wanting to set up the 5G network. Do you think that perhaps there needs to be careful thinking around basic public infrastructure and prevent foreign ownership of any of that infrastructure? Would you push for that?
I don't push for prevention of foreign ownership. After all, we need investment in the United Kingdom, and the government is quite rightly keen to encourage that. The point is, though, that there need to be guardrails around how that investment is done. There needs to be transparency about who owns what. And there needs to be a careful thought given to what we are prepared to allow foreign companies access to. You rightly raised the Huawei episode, where there was a moment when it might have been that a Chinese company would have been allowed into the UK telecommunications 5G network. That didn't happen. But the point is that the government is now taking a wider view of national security than was the case then. You know, when I first started dealing with these things, I think there was a sense that what mattered was, is the sensitive information? Are there secrets which a company holds which need to be protected? And if the answer is no, then perhaps it doesn't matter very much. I think there is now a much broader understanding of national security, both in relation to our infrastructure, but also in relation to the strategic position which foreign companies can build up in our country without anybody paying sufficient attention to it.
Sir Simon, thank you so much for your time. Sir Simon Gaster, they're writing about this in the Times today. You can read that with your online Times subscription by visiting thetimes.com.